Let's go back to New Mexico really quick and talk about the effects of trade in New Mexico. In parts of New Mexico, you had buffalo herds present, and some Native American groups made their living by hunting these buffaloes. But New Mexican settlers also did as well. Ciboleros were New Mexican settlers who specialized in the hunting of buffalo. And so these settlers helped to reduce the number of buffaloes along with Native American hunters, and ultimately Americans would come in eventually as well, hunting for the hides of buffaloes. The difference between some of these groups is Native Americans and New Mexican settlers would use pretty much all parts of the buffalo for various different products. They didn't really waste it, but when the American long rifle hunters came in, a lot of them were just hunting for hides, and they would leave the rest of the carcass there. And so you would eventually see the overhunting of buffalo in that region. The Americans also set up trade with New Mexicans along a trail known as the Santa Fe Trail. This trail led from New Mexico all the way to Missouri, and American merchants would be making quite a profit on this trail. And so this trail actually shifted the balance of power between Native Americans and New Mexicans. In one way, the Americans would provide weapons and ammo to Native American groups, and they would use those weapons against New Mexicans and Texans. Okay, so that kind of shifts the balance of power because it helps the Native Americans to have more power. In this way, Americans are supporting the raiding that Native Americans are doing in these Mexican colonies. Now, Americans also would trade directly with New Mexicans as well, and mainly it was with the wealthy New Mexicans, the ricos, right? Members of the elite. They were the ones who monopolized trade with the Americans. Eventually, this American trade has a major effect on the Mexican provinces of the north. It gets to the point where the state of Chihuahua becomes dependent on this Santa Fe Trail trade that's going on in New Mexico. So basically, American goods would find their way from New Mexico down to Chihuahua, and that totally makes the northern provinces more and more dependent on American trade, and that's not a good thing from the Mexican perspective. They don't want to be dependent on trade with the Americans. Another concern that the Mexican government has is that Americans are starting to migrate more and more into their northern provinces, and that could be an issue. You don't want their numbers to get too high. Eventually, the Mexican government would ban trade with the Americans in 1843. That ban would eventually be overturned, though, the following year because you have the ricos in New Mexico who were benefiting from that trade with the Americans, and they didn't want to lose that revenue stream, and so they protested against this act by the Mexican government and got it overturned.